Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's so wonderful to be here. I'm here to talk about your money story. And the reason that this is important is because we're all running around telling a story about ourselves. We're telling stories to the people that we encounter, but we're also telling stories to ourselves. And so it's really important to understand what is it that we're telling ourselves and other people, so that we can be intentional about the stories that we're telling. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I've got a lot of information for you that I'm going to try and get through in just a short amount of time. All right, I think you guys can see my screen. Let's see here. Okay, so you're already telling yourself a money story. You might as well make it a good one. And I did create a workbook for this presentation. So if you haven't downloaded the workbook, no problem. You can head to britniross.com/TWC to download it at any time. Or you can just use a blank sheet of paper to take notes. So where is the story coming from? This presentation was actually born out of a one-on-one session that I was having with a client. This client kept telling me, Britni, I don't have a money story. I'm fine with money. I don't have any issues with money. I don't have any problems with money. And then she went on to tell me about all the different people in her life, her mom, her dad, her husband, and all of their beliefs about money and what she thought of those. And through this session, I finally looked at her and said, you're definitely telling a money story. It just isn't your money story. So this woman was walking around with beliefs about money that were just all the parts and pieces that she had picked up along the way. And I just watched her head kind of explode, where she was like, oh my goodness, I am telling a money story. I just didn't even realize it. I've just been regurgitating all these parts and pieces that I've picked up. I didn't even know I was doing that. So where are these beliefs coming from? The things that we believe, our foundational core beliefs, come from the things we heard first, and then the things that we've heard the most. So considering how much time, especially thanks to COVID, that we are spending with ourselves, I think it's really important to understand what it is that you're telling yourself about money. And the way I like to do this is a fun style of breaking down our story. So anytime you've read a great story, it had elements to it that are required. You need a cast of characters. You need a setting where everything is taking place. You're going to need a decent plot, so lots of twists and turns and decisions being made, and a dash of style, which is going to come out in your language and how you're talking about these things. So let's start by digging into the main character. So that's you. You are the main character in your story. And when was the last time you really sat down and thought about all the parts and pieces that make you who you are? So let's start by asking ourselves some questions. What makes up my identity? So if I'm using myself as an example, I identify as a woman. I identify as middle class. I identify as a Gen Xer. I live in the Midwest part of the US, so I identify as being from the Midwest. I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I am an entrepreneur, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. So all of these little parts and pieces make up who I am as a character. And if I dig even deeper beyond just these superficial titles that I've given myself, I begin to see that I also identify as being seen as ambitious. I want to be seen as successful, as someone who achieves her goals. And so all of these parts and pieces that are building my identity are going to show up in how I present myself to the world and what I believe about myself. Then we move on to the supporting cast. So these are all the people who have come along this journey with you from the beginning, but also the people that you're around the most right now. And I don't think we spend a lot of time really thinking about who we're around and what makes those people who they are, and what parts and pieces are we picking up from them that we're now putting into our own identity. So think about your supporting cast right now. Who are they? How would you describe them? Are these family members? Are they friends, coworkers, neighbors? How are these people talking about themselves? Do they describe themselves as broke? Do they make, flippant comments about not having money? Do they see themselves as highly successful? What sorts of things are y'all doing together? Are you going out and spending a lot of money every time you go out? Do you feel pressure from these people to show up in a certain way? What types of conversations are happening when you're with these people? Are they good, fulfilling, uplifting conversations? Or are you hanging out with people who are tearing other people down? How do they talk about money? How do they behave with money? So if I think about some of the people who have been in my life, I've had friends where the only way we could get together was to go shopping. It was almost as if our entire relationship was built on shopping. Not exactly the healthiest relationship. So think about who is in your life and what parts and pieces you're picking up from them. And I know that it's really common now, there's a common saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So this is really, really critical in uncovering some of those core beliefs that you have about money. Then we move on to the setting. Where is everything taking place? Where is it taking place now? And where was it taking place? So I identify myself as being from the Midwest. And people from the Midwest have a fun way of talking about things. So some common phrases that I have heard throughout my life are things akin to, like, don't forget where you came from. Don't get too big for your britches. And then there's always this little voice inside my head that says things like, who does she think she is? So are you from an area where these are some, are there common phrases being said because of where you're from? I know in the US, the Midwest and the South both have a belief that you should stick to your roots. Don't get too big for your, don't outgrow your roots. Don't forget where you came from. That said, I also run an e-commerce business. So I have been exposed to a lot of different ideas and opportunities that have expanded my mindset beyond the one physical location that I've come from. So how do you find yourself identifying with where you live now or where you were born? And how does where you live influence your behavior around money? So if you come from a place like me that is economically depressed, your behavior around money might be scarcity based. You might feel like there's never enough. And I am guilty of this. I have to overcome this in my life all the time. I have a tendency to want to hoard money because something's going to happen. There's the storm's coming. And I attribute a lot of this to where I'm from. So what cues about money are you picking up from your location? And then let's talk about the language, your style, how this is showing up in all the parts and pieces of the story that you're telling. What language are you using about money, both when you talk to other people, but especially when you talk to yourself? And then again, how are the people around you talking about money? How does your broader culture talk about money? And by culture, You could include the place where you live. It could be a religious affiliation. It could be a professional industry that you're in, or maybe it's, class related if you're lower, middle, or upper class. So what kind of language? Are you saying things like, I'm broke, I can't afford that? Or what about phrases like, the money is the root of all evil, or money can't buy happiness? Are you hearing these phrases, using these phrases, and then taking them as part of your truth? And then we move on to the plot. So the plot is going to be all of the impactful decisions and behaviors that you've made or are doing around money. So you have specific circumstances that you find yourself in. And then you have beliefs about those circumstances. And your circumstances and your beliefs, when they come together, that's where your behavior is really being influenced. So if you come from circumstances where money has been hard to come by, you may have a belief that money is hard to earn. And then your behaviors could be that you're not applying for jobs that are a higher income because you think that you're either not smart enough, not qualified enough, because you've come from circumstances that have influenced your beliefs and are causing you to behave in a certain way. So looking back at those first 4 elements of your money story, what beliefs do you have about money that have influenced the decisions you've made along the way? Now, obviously, this is all meant to be done over a much longer time than 20 minutes that we have today. So when this is over, I encourage you to go back through and look at your old money story and answer these questions. And then we get to go into, this is my favorite part. This is the part where we're going to start writing a new money story. But there's a catch. Because I know that we each have a really crappy editor in our brain, that as we try to rewrite our story, that crappy editor is going to tell us, you can't do that, you have kids. You can't do that, you already have this career, so you can't possibly go do this thing you think you want. Okay, in order to turn off the crappy editor, here's what I want you to do. We're gonna think of the new money story as if it's fictional. So you're going to cast yourself as the lead in your new money story. But I want you to think about it as if she's not real. She's fictional, because I want that crappy editor to take a back seat while we do this. So I want you to imagine this woman in detail, and I mean detail. How does she dress? What are her hobbies? Is she spontaneous and adventurous? What kind of work does she do? Is she cooking? Does she have a meal service coming in? Does she live in the city? Does she live in the countryside? What is she doing in the mornings? Are her mornings slow or is she rushed? Does she read? What does she do for the people she loves? I want you to really envision this woman and what you think her ideal life looks like. And then we'll move on to that cast of characters. Again, as if this were an entirely fictional story. Who is this woman surrounding herself with? How are they spending their time? What do they do for fun together? Are they going out shopping? Are they taking, fun trips on the weekends? Or are they getting together for lots of laughs and a fun game? What kind of conversations are happening? Is she talking about all the various people that she works with, or is she getting together with people and talking about ideas? Maybe she's talking about her investment opportunities that just happened. What are they talking about? Are these people uplifting her? Are these relationships meaningful? Is she close with her family? And is she married? Does she have kids? What kind of relationship does she have with her family? So I want you to really get in touch with, in an ideal world, my main character would hang out with these sorts of people and they'd be doing these sorts of things, and really envision what that could be like. And where is it all happening? Is it happening where, does this fictional woman live where you live? Does she live in a house? Does she live in an apartment? Does she live near the beach? Like my fictional character lives down in Mexico, oceanfront property in Mexico. Has this woman put down roots, or is she maybe living a more nomadic lifestyle where she's, after COVID, maybe she realized she could work anywhere in the world. So she's trying out different locations because that excites her. What country does she live in? Does she live in Canada or the US? Or has she said, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm going somewhere tropical. You can tell it's winter in Ohio and I'm ready for the beach. What kind of language does this woman use in her daily life? How does she talk about herself to others and to herself? What is her self-talk like? What kinds of words and phrases is she using around money? Does she say she's broke? Does she say she can't afford things? I'm guessing she probably doesn't. And how do the people around her talk about money? What are the words they're using? Are they telling her that money can't buy happiness, that it's the root of all evil? Or are they always trying to figure out new and creative ways to have money expand their lives? And where is the story going to go? What are the things that are happening in this woman's life? And is she making decisions with confidence? What kind of goals is she working towards? Is she working towards some big lofty goal that maybe you in your current money story would say, oh, that's too big, that's too scary, I don't even know how I would do that. But this woman's going to be working towards that. And is she excited about her future? Or is she worried that there's never going to be enough? So with all of that, and again, I encourage you after this event is over to really cozy up in a little nook in your house and spend some time doing this, because the next part is even more fun than the fictional part. Now we have to integrate. We have to take all of these idealistic, fictional parts and pieces of the story you just created, and we need to look through them and find which ones feel really exciting. And then we can go back to our current existing story, and we can start to locate the parts and pieces that feel tired and worn out. And we can start to bring these together. And we can't bring them all together at once. That's too much for any human to do. But there's got to be at least one or two parts of your new ideal story that you would like to map over top of your existing story. So identify one or two parts that you want to replace that aren't working for you in your current story. Notice any excuses that are coming up around that as well. And if you're feeling like, you know what, I really want to expand this work, I want to do, like, I'm excited, I've got ideas coming up already, but I want to do even more, then I'm going to invite you to sign up at britniross.com/rewrite, because I've got a free 5-day email course that's going to walk you through your money story in a lot more detail than we're able to get into today. And again, download the workbook at britniross.com/TWC if you haven't downloaded it already, and share it with a friend. If you've got a friend nearby in your life that you're like, I want to do this with that friend, you can send them this link, or you can absolutely just send them your workbook. And that's what I've got for you today. So let's exit here, figure out how to stop sharing my screen. It's not working. Stop share, there it is. I'll learn how to use Zoom. So it's really important and critical that you identify the story you're telling yourself right now, and then you can intentionally start to craft a new story on top of it, because what we believe about our circumstances will impact our behaviors, and our behaviors sculpt our reality. So if anyone has any questions, I think that's about the amount of time we have for today. Thank you so much.